Good morning. We are here with Mr. Thomas Brill today. He is one of the attorneys here at Carrazco Law. Good morning, Mr. Brill.
Good morning.
And we're here to ask him some questions about his career, personal life, and to just get to know him a little bit better. So the first question that I have for you is, what inspired you to become a personal injury attorney?
Well, let me just start by saying I'm very excited to be here. And the thing that really inspired me to become a personal injury attorney was my first job, which was working for insurance defense companies on the bad side. Mm-hmm. And I lasted about a year there and quickly realized my heart was not in it at all, in trying to save some big insurance company money. I did learn some important things about insurance companies in that 1 year, but I knew pretty much from the first month I was there that what I really wanted to do was kind of be on the side of the little guy or the underdog, and just to help people who are in a difficult situation and wouldn't otherwise have the ability to fight against these big insurance companies, to get involved in that fight.
Okay. Was there a specific moment where you realized that this was your calling once you did become a plaintiff's attorney?
Well, I think I couldn't say there was a specific moment when I first realized that this was where I belonged, but the first work I did with a firm that specialized in personal injury, the first day I walked in the door, it was a pretty chaotic situation, but the first day I walked in the door, I just realized this is what I want. This is, the practice that I want to be involved in. Again, it's all about helping the people who are in a really tough place in their life, and we can step in and make a really big difference in their lives. And I kind of knew from day one that it was giving me a really good feeling, even before I put my hands on too many files. So.
Okay. And why did you choose to practice law in Bakersfield? What about the Bakersfield community drew you to that?
Well, it's interesting. When I was working for an injury law firm in Los Angeles years and years ago, I had a case that involved some people from the little town of McFarland in Kern County. And they were basically poor, mostly farm workers, and they had bought government housing. And that government housing was substandard. It wasn't built up to the government's code. And so those people came to our firm and said, hey, can you help us out here? And I got to know the people from that community in McFarland. And it just gave me a really good feeling. These are people who sometimes didn't even have documents. They were hardworking families. They had put their hearts into the American dream, and then they were sold this nightmare of a house. And so it just gave me a great feeling to be able to help them fight against, a construction company and their big insurance company, and to get them some relief. And just getting to know the whole Kern County community, and particularly the farm worker community through that case, really drew me into that area. Mm-hmm. I can also say that for many years I got involved in fighting against pesticides, and that was a really big issue in that county. The use of pesticides, which can make farm workers sick, and I did handle some cases in that area as well. But the more I kind of learned about that hardworking Mexican and Latino community, I was just really drawn to it.
Mm-hmm. And what led you to Carrazco Law?
Well, I think for years I had known who Angel was, and I was working in a firm in Bakersfield that had a number of business lawyers and some lawyers who specialized in fighting about water rights. And even though I was still doing the personal injury work there, it just ultimately didn't feel like a good fit for me, because they didn't have the same commitment that I had. And so knowing about Angel, I also have a longtime friend who works here, Kent Henderson, and Kent's a great guy. I've always had a lot of respect for him, and Kent and I got to talking, and he mentioned that Angel might be looking for somebody to help fill a role at the firm, and I felt like, I want to get back to where my heart was at the beginning, which was with a big personal injury law firm. And so I got back into it, and again, from the first day that I started working with Angel, I knew that I had made the right decision. Mm-hmm. I work a lot harder now, but it's way more rewarding. I mean, I'm around people that understand what it means to what you have to sacrifice to help other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really important about this business.
Absolutely. And what do you find most rewarding about working with clients as far as personal injury cases go?
Well, personal injury or otherwise, I think the thing that drives me, it probably makes me not a great businessman, but a happy human being, is I just have a really big heart for people. I love helping people. I get calls sometimes from people who I know I won't be able to help from the very beginning. It may not even be a personal injury case, but I also know that there's not going to be anywhere else they can turn to get some advice. And so I always try to spend at least the amount of time it takes to let someone know they're being heard and try to give the advice that I can. And when it involves a personal injury case where I can get involved and do the work, I bring that same kind of passion for helping that person to the process. It's really, personal injury cases can last a year or 2 years, 3 years. They can go on for a while, and you develop relationships with your clients. And if you don't kind of have that passion, I think your clients, the people that you're helping, the people that you represent, that you want to try to make their lives better, they're going to know it. And if you do have that passion, they're going to understand it. And I have lost a couple of cases in my career, and one of the most emotional moments in my career was when I had to try a case in Texas in federal court. And after a 10-day trial, we lost. This mother had lost her son. He got shot by a police officer. It was a very, very difficult case, but I put my heart into it. We tried it. We lost. And about a week later, I got a card from her saying, thank you. I appreciate that you've done everything you can to help our family. Mm-hmm. And so it's that kind of relationship that you develop with your clients that gives them a sense of satisfaction and that justice has been done, win or lose.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know you just shared a really impactful case, but do you have a moment in your career that you believe deeply impacted you as an attorney in general?
There were actually two I'm going to address, and there were two moments in my career where I really was impacted. The first one was fairly early on in my career. I worked for an organization called California Rural Legal Assistance, and their whole role is to help poor people in rural areas. And there was a guy that came in, and he was owed 2 weeks' salary from, Pizza Hut or someplace. And I made a phone call. We got his 2 weeks of salary, and about a week later, he brought me like a case of 7-Up. We didn't charge at California Rural Legal Assistance for our services, but he brought in this case of 7-Up, and I was just, this poor guy. I wasn't expecting anything, and it just kind of broke my heart. And since that time, I've always put my heart into it, kind of almost in his memory. The other moment that I had that was a lot different was a case that I tried about 15 years ago, where a young man suffered a brain injury in a nasty car accident, and it was a police officer that had made an illegal U-turn in front of him, and he was a passenger in a Jeep, didn't have a seatbelt on, and the Jeep crashed into the side of this police car, and he got launched out of the Jeep because he didn't have a seatbelt on and suffered a severe brain injury. And the firm I was working for at the time was pushing on me really hard to settle the case. They had offered about $1 million on that case, and they went up to $2 million. And I was getting all this pressure from my superiors at the time to settle, and I ended up deciding I wanted to try the case, and we ended up with a $7 million verdict in that very difficult case in Kern County, where people are very supportive of law enforcement, which is good. I think people should support law enforcement, but this was against the police. So I had some concerns about it, but I also knew that the young man was going to need a lot of care throughout his life. And so the day that verdict came in, the $7 million verdict, I was pretty thrilled and felt like I had done the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing those stories. And finally, what message would you like to share with people who may be afraid to seek legal counsel after they suffer an accident?
Well, the message that I think is important for people to know if they're afraid to seek legal help after an accident is twofold. First of all, if you're going through a really difficult time and you're afraid of the legal system, you don't know what it's about, you don't know how lawyers work, one really important thing to know is that you have somebody that can be on your side. And when you hire a lawyer, you can leverage your power. You have someone who is, has a lot of power within the system to make changes for your life. And so even though it might seem intimidating, you're not used to being around professionals, you don't know the language of law, you want to go see someone who can explain things to you thoroughly, but who you can trust, but who will also be on your side and go into bat for you. So, and it doesn't cost anything unless you recover money. So it's not like you have to invest thousands and thousands of dollars in order to get somebody to help you. You don't have to invest anything. But the second thing I would, a little more specifically, is there are a lot of undocumented folks that think, oh, I can't bring a lawsuit, I don't have papers. Mm-hmm. Even in the most troubling of times, and even if you feel like you have no place in America, you do. And you have the same rights as someone who is documented. You have the same rights as a U.S. citizen to bring a lawsuit if you've been injured in an accident and it's not your fault, or even in the workplace. You have rights too, and it's important for people to know that.
Thank you so much.